to be able to achieve it. So we state our goal as, the most long term, if you can, enlightenment, perfection of your mind. Why? Because that's who you really are, and it's this way we can be of benefit to others. The most expansive, altruistic reason for doing something. And we remind ourselves of the Buddha's teachings, reiterate our reliance upon them. If we were a Buddhist already, we'd love to avoid it. Sangye charan soke chomdam ha jancho baru dagni kyam suchi dagi chönyen gipe sonam ki jola peche sangye dropa sho sangye charan soke chomdam ha jancho baru dagni kyam suchi dagi chönyen gipe sonam ki jola peche sangye dropa sho Sangye charam soke chonam ha jancho baru dagni kyam suchi dagi chönyen gipe sonam ki drola peche sangye dropa sho. Okay, so what did you say, Devin? What should I talk about? Where's Devin? He's gone.
The calendar showed Dharma for the holidays. Dharma something for the holidays.
That sounds like to me, because you're going to be with your family, and the vast majority of murders on this earth are within families. It sounds to me like a dangerous time. No, really, they say like 47, latest figures, I don't know, 47% of murders are partners. 23% are sibling, like mothers and children. Oh, it's kind of heavy duty. Serious. Normally people want to join that institution. I find that a bit shocking. People feel sorry for monks and nuns. I don't know how many monks and nuns kill each other. So anyway, well done. So let's look at the delusions that might arise. Well, they're going to be called attachment. And then the main one will be when attachment doesn't get what it wants, when that uncle says those rude words, or when that wretched mother you can't stand doesn't do what your attachment wants. So of course that will be what's called aversion or anger, and that's when the killing comes in. So we better work. So let's talk. The same whole discussion, attachment and anger. I'm sorry. But the other one, we want to be sound all holy about it. We can talk about generosity, can't we? I mean, this is meant to be, I don't know, people don't they give presents? Don't we give presents and things? Shouldn't just be at Christmas, should it? Or the holidays, as we call it. Now, I'm being ridiculous. I don't know what to talk about. I'm sorry.
Well, it said it was Dharma tools for the holidays.
Well, there you go. So what are you expecting then? Tell me. What would you like?
Some lessons we could apply throughout our whole lives to move toward the enlightenment that allows us to help others.
Sounds like the same old thing.
Yeah. It's a theme.
Same old, same old.
It's a theme, yeah.
Well,
what about space?
Huh?
What about space?
Oh, space, I don't know. I don't think about space. I'm feeling ridiculous. I don't know what to say.
I'll tell you first.
So, I mean, that means we can talk about bodhicitta. That means we can talk about generosity. That means we can talk about giving up attachment and anger. That means we can talk about impermanence. So which one would you like? That means we can talk about emptiness. There is no Christmas. What? Come on, you have to. I'll get going soon. Okay.
How about emptiness, independent arising?
Emptiness, independent. Okay. What haven't we talked about much the last 3 weeks? We've talked about most everything.
Oh well.
No, I'm feeling completely ridiculous. I don't know what to say. Yes, go on.
Well, you have mentioned a couple of times about your past when you were involved in sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm interested in those things. I haven't given up those things, and I think about it. Do you have anything to say about that? Because they're great. Why?
Well, you don't. I mean, you don't need. give up sex, drugs and rock and roll. Well, in my case, I never gave up rock and roll because I never liked it. And I never gave up jazz, which I do like, so I just gave up the sex and drugs part. Well, anyway.
Was it worth it?
Oh, I mean, was it worth it? Yeah, of course it is. I'm not part of the 47% who are likely to kill each other. I'm joking. Okay, let me think here. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I'm usually not stuck for words, am I?
About renunciation.
Renunciation, that's what it starts with, isn't it? Well, why don't we just overview everything we've talked about, which is sort of the path from A to Z, kind of just, and then see how all that, and maybe emphasize, really look at, like you said, tools, I mean, this is the point. This is the whole point of everything here. If we're attempting to, if we like Buddhism, it means we've got to like the tools. It's like a cooking class. You've got to like the tools. You've got to be able to know how to apply it. So how do you apply the idea of renunciation in bodhicitta, emptiness, to our lives? This is the point, isn't it? This is good. This is the point. So, the one of bodhicitta especially, when we hear, this world is very terrifying, this world is very distressing, this world is full of terrible suffering. Every now and again a kinetic thing will happen, but that's just one of, one that stands out maybe because it's in this particular country. It's happening every other day. If you're living in Syria, this is a daily event. If you're living in some countries right now, it's a daily event. So maybe the main one, because the point for us, if we're on the Mahayana path, everything is leading to the point, which is bodhicitta. This is the point, If you look at the Lamrim prayer we did in the Lama Chöpa practice, we did it last night. The first few verses, 3 or 4, is all the first 2 stages of the path. Then it starts with bodhicitta. It kind of goes right to the point. In a way, you can say, if you're on the Mahayana path, the first stages of practice, which are absolutely vital, you can't ever underestimate, and we mostly talk about that, which is the part of getting renunciation, which is the part of controlling your body and speech, then controlling your mind, then learning meditation, then understanding the delusions, then going beyond the delusions. So all of that really is just preparation for the point, which is the compassion wing. This is the point, actually. All the years of going up in retreat, the retreat mode, the giving up of sex, drugs and rock and roll mode, the retreat mode, which is where you're looking into your own mind and controlling your own body, speech and mind. The point of all that, which often, interestingly to the world, looks like the point of being a Buddhist. That looks like the point of being a Buddhist. But it's just the beginning. It's just the preparation. You are now ready to do the real job of benefiting sentient beings, And so, of course, for most of us, I suppose some of us, compassion is what drives us to a spiritual path, a really strong wish to benefit others, which is incredible, actually. And others of us, what drives us to it is the wish to understand and how to put yourself together. Nothing wrong, both, nothing, that's incredible. But we've got to do both wings, of course. You can't, as His Holiness says, compassion is not enough. You need the wisdom wing. You've got to have the wisdom, which means the nuts and bolts of karma, impermanence, how the mind works, control your body and speech. All that's the nuts and bolts of what you do every day, which is the absence of which is why you want to go kill somebody, the absence of which is why you have fights with your friends and family at Christmas, but the success at which is why you're then capable of doing the actual job, which is a bigger benefit to others, which is the bodhicitta part. And so the way to use that as a tool, most of us now, we've got no way we've got anywhere like levels of love and compassion in the way they talk about, And if you hear the highly realised people talking, in my case, let's say, for example, my teacher, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he just seems to only ever talk about bodhicitta. That's all he ever seems to come out of his mouth, Everything comes down to bodhicitta, everything comes down to that, which would seem to indicate that's where he's at, So it seems almost impossible when we start to hear those levels of compassion, the levels of incredible compassion for sentient beings. It seems almost impossible to our minds to have that level of utter egolessness, where the whole point of existence is truly to benefit others. They say one of the first indicators of your having accomplished bodhicitta is there's no longer the thought of I. You say I in a conventional sense, you're not stupid, you don't think you're Fred when you're really Mary, you know the name of your I, but the thought of I in the way that the thought of I, which is what fills us all day and taken as an absolute assumption of reality, doesn't occur. It's kind of shocking. that would be considered extreme mental illness in our culture, wouldn't it? Really serious mental illness, because all of our materialist models of the mind are based upon the assumption of a very strong I. So when you think that bodhicitta, one of the first signs is no longer the thought of I, or they say no longer would you ever ask for anything for yourself, it would never occur to you to have something for yourself. That's stunning. That's too outrageous. It seems utterly impossible to us. So how do we use that as a tool? Well, all we can do is, aspire. So when you hear, like we talked, when you see things and hear about such extreme suffering, like that Connecticut thing, and the response to which for most of us, being materialists, is, oh my God, why did that happen? We get distressed, we get depressed, we get fearful, or we get angry. They're the only two options we seem to have. But mainly it's why, and we have no answers. This is the distress, I think, the basis of most of the distress in the materialist world. Have people, those of us who are living according to the materialist philosophy. Of course, there is no answer. There is no answer. You can't find the answer why, There's no logical explanation for it. Of course, if we're attempting to be Buddhists, we're using the Buddha's explanation of karma to describe. So this is where the real kind of application of these tools comes. When we're floating along having a nice time, everything's working nicely, meaning our attachment's getting what it wants, when the weather's pleasant and people are nice to us and they say thank you and hello and smile at us, which is what attachment wants desperately. So when we have that happening, which is what we call happiness, then we never worry about applying any tools, because we don't think we need to apply a tool, because we think everything's hunky-dory. But so for us, the test is always the second attachment doesn't get what it wants. So that can be an extreme example, like reading about those 20 little children all being slaughtered. That's when it's an extreme one. So how do we apply each of these tools? Because that's what they are. Reading about Buddhism, reading the books, reading about impermanence, reading about renunciation, emptiness, bodhicitta, control your body and speech, which we love to read if we like these ideas. But the biggest problem is getting them from the head to the heart. Getting them from the head to being a tool. So what does that mean? How do we apply? And this is technically, it's not complicated, but we get very confused about it. So when we think of the tool of compassion, we somehow mistake and think we're supposed to feel huge compassion. But you can't feel it if you're not ready yet. So what you can do is you think it. You think the thoughts. So how would you apply, okay, look at how each of these tools, the tool of renunciation, the tool of impermanence, the tool of karma, the tool of the delusions and there being the cause of your suffering, the tool of then love, compassion, bodhicitta, the stages of the path. They're the tools, which are, how do we apply them? So we read about this story. The first thing we do is we notice what's arising in our mind. And that we instinctively, horror, shock, how dare, the usual samsaric mode, which is what's spontaneous in our mind. All of us, according to the view we've got, or to whatever philosophy we're living according to. We will all interpret that differently. So how do we apply Buddhist thinking to it? Well, the first one will be impermanence. Let's say you're in a relationship right now and it's really terrifying because you're thinking of losing this person's leaving you or something. Then a really powerful tool to apply when you read about that one could be impermanence. There you go. There's little children, 6 years old. Nobody in their mind for a millionth of a second would ever think that they're going to die at the age of 6. There's an absolute assumption a child is only 6 and they've got a long life to come. So the first shock to us is that a 6-year-old would die. Forget how, but a 6-year-old, that's already a massive shock to the mind. Now, just being intellectual about it, but it's very important. Why are we shocked? Of course, there's the natural, it's the natural human response. Of course, there is that. But take that aside and let's analyse clinically each of the usual responses we'd have to that environment, to that event. And then, if we're trying to be clinical and analytical about it, which we are, because that's how we're changing our mind to a different way of interpreting things. So the first one about impermanence, for example. The reason we're shocked that a 6-year-old would die is because it's an assumption that they wouldn't. Is it's an assumption that a 6-year-old is only 6 and they will naturally have a long life. We all assume that at the depths of our bones. We could spend an hour thinking just about impermanence, right there, the second we read that story. This is how you would apply, quotes, the Buddhist teachings. If you were a Christian, you'd apply Christian teachings to it. If you're a communist, you'd apply communist teachings. You talk about the this and the capitalist and the blah and the multi-industrial something and the this and the gun lobby and blah. You do that thinking. If you were a child hater, you'd have the thinking of being happy the child died. If you understand my point. Whatever the basis is right now in your mind, which will be your philosophy, that's what you apply to the interpretation. So here we're trying to learn to apply the Buddhist interpretation. So the first one, impermanence. Very profound, already incredible. Right there, in your tracks, you stop. My God, they were 6. Who would ever think you died when you were 6? Bright, healthy, young, little people. And suddenly, dead. It's the most powerful teaching on impermanence. You could spend an hour right there analysing all the points and really getting, and using it, and this is the real point, at each stage, using it as a tool for you. We're not discussing the children yet. That gets to compassion. We haven't gone there. We've got to go through impermanence, karma, and then compassion. We'll get there in a minute. Emptiness and then compassion. We'll go through each tool, okay? So this first one, impermanence, incredible. Already incredible. As we know, a teacher in the very first stages of Malamrian, taking Buddhist teachings, he wants us to think that death is definite. Right there, death is definite. It will happen. Guaranteed. The very fact of your being born means you're going to die. Right there. The second one, and this is the real teaching here, for us in this moment when we read that story, is, oh my God, the time of death is uncertain. We don't believe that for 1 millisecond. Why? And this is the point about these tools. What these tools are meant to be using a certain way of interpreting to argue with the deeply ingrained instinctive views that we have at the moment, that are called samsaric views, which of course, as we know, Buddha would suggest are inaccurate assessments of reality. And that's what it means, using a tool. In this case, it's a tool of how you interpret something. That's what it means. That's what it means. So you think about impermanence right there. My God, if you're 6, you can drop dead without the slightest sign. Then that means here I am, 68, 66, 62 years older than that. That'll happen to me. Right there. We don't like to think that. We never think it. It seems too boring and kind of, yeah, okay, impermanence, blah, blah. But already, that's the most incredible teaching. And right there, just that one. But you don't have to read just that one. You just have to see an ant that's dead. You'll get that one. This is how you use every single scrap of your life as the basis of your ability to transform your mind into a Buddha's mind, which is what you're trying to do if you are Buddhist. That's what it means. Like if you're trying to be a musician, you're trying to transform your mind into like Bach's mind, basically. You're trying to think like Bach. Well, here we're trying to think like Buddha. This is the Buddhist view. Buddha says everything's impermanent. Buddha says death is definite. Time of death's uncertain. There's the proof right there. Rather than, oh my God, it is shocking that a 6-year-old dies. It shouldn't happen. It's wrong that a 6-year-old dies. How can a 6-year-old die? How can it possibly be? It is not fair. It is awful. All these things we say, On a relative level, you can say that. It's true. It is tragic. Of course you can say that. But the underlying is the interpretation of it, which gives us a reason why. Well, no, not even why yet. We're getting to that. So impermanence, incredible teaching. Right there. Right there. Right there. Unbelievable. And you don't just intellectualize it, you use it for yourself. That will be me. I might die naturally. I might die under a car. I might get shot. You don't know. Unless you're clairvoyant, you don't know. We, of course, don't. We assume we're not going to get shot by a terrorist. We assume we're not going to get run over by a car, when we're driving that car. We don't think any minute I could die. We assume that I will, get out of that plane whole, with the body all nice and the same as usual, alive. Because we have this massive delusion, the Buddha would say, called grasping at permanence. It's at the level of absolute instinct, and as an absolute truth, that everything appears to us as permanent, absolutely oneself. I am permanent. Intellectually we know we're going to die, but it's way over there in the distance, and we don't want to know about it, thank you very much. So we don't think about it. There's an opportunity, right that second. And that's an extreme example. Every second you can read about that. Every second you read about 42 people dying in Syria, and then forget that, the ants dying in front of you, the dog, the cat. You can't avoid dying. Right there, every second, you've got 47 lessons a day in impermanence. By the end of the day, you could have realised impermanence if you use it as a tool. But most of the time we don't. We just gloss over. And the only time it affects us is when it's something as serious as that, or when it's our people die. Like my sister dies, my dog dies. Then it's a deeply moving experience for us. But even then, it's moving and deeply an experience, but we don't learn from it. We don't use a real tool. We just get sad and full of attachment, and then we've got to go get another dog to fill the space. We don't really learn from it. And this is what a tool means. You've got to learn from everything that happens. And this is what it means, using, this is what it means, practicing. This is what practice is. It's not some abstract thing you do on your cushion. Keep your eyes wide open to practice, please. Life is the basis for your interpretation of using Buddhist tools. That's what it means, a tool. This means thinking differently, nothing abstract. Every second, right there. That's a massive one. Then you have to ask the question, well, why did they die at the age of 6? And here we've got Buddha's explanations, because he has a very clear explanation. Well, their karma ran out. So we think about karma now. And this is the basis of having any sanity in our ability to explain it to ourselves. And therefore, the basis for what comes next, which is compassion. The point. So karma, we remember Buddha's teaching. Buddha says, which is what we're trying to think, every single consciousness, every single mind, every mind possessor, every sen chen, every mind possessor, every sentient being, necessarily, just naturally, it's a natural law, is experiencing the fruits of their past actions. Right there, that's it, simple. Not a complicated concept. Those 6-year-olds could learn that concept. Hardly complicated. But for us, unbearable. Because why? Because the view in our mind now is, it's not fair, how dare, they're innocent, they're 6, they're only this, it's tragic, it's shocking, it's wrong. And so of course what happens then, we instantly try to find who to blame. Well, unfortunately, the boy killed himself, so it's a bit frustrating to blame him because he's dead already. We love him to be alive, so we can vilify him, and hang him and have evil and stories about him and pictures and all this, The anger in us wants that. Because we know we have nowhere else to go when it comes to the answer, why. Now, if you've got a tendency towards depression and not overt anger, it will just become unbearably depressing and despairing for you. And you can't bear to look at it. Because we don't have an answer to why. Okay, Buddha might be wrong, but if we're Buddhists, we're attempting to use Buddha's teachings as our hypothesis, so we take his view of karma. And if we say we're Buddhists, we better be serious about that. Not just say, oh yeah, but that's not possible, I don't like that. No, it can't be right. Because we don't like it. So we've got to be brave. We've got to be courageous to hypothesize the possibility that there are trillions of minds, all the dogs, all the ants, all the worms, all the little 6-year-old, gorgeous, seemingly innocent children. But their consciousness is a beginningless continuity of mental moments that comes from back, before. And that whatever necessarily, according to this law, that being experiences right now, that's one of the 4 ways their karma from the past ripens in the present. The experience similar to the cause. When you look at an experience, you see a person, who wins $1 million in the lottery. Well, it's easy to deduce what the cause of that could be. It's called generosity. So that person, we have to deduce, had generosity seeds in their mind, not from this life. They could be the meanest person on earth in this life. But they've got some seeds of past generosity, which then the conditions came together. They bought a lottery ticket and boom, they got $1 million. So that's the cause of that, but just good luck. We can think the good, and it's very good to think the good things, because we never bother to ask why the good things happen, because we just greedily want more good things, please. But it's only the bad things. Why do bad things happen? Because we don't want the bad things. So the reason, logically, and it's too shocking even to think the thought. Forget about in a discussion with somebody to say it. I mean, you'd get. I mean, I remember hearing about years ago the what do you call it in England, the manager of the English soccer team. the country soccer team. He was sacked because he made a joke about somebody in a wheelchair and he made a joke about karma. He was sacked. He was seen as so shocking. So the idea of karma compared with the materialist view, which is there's no cause and it's unfair, then to even talk about karma seems like utterly beyond shocking. So one has to think about this, and we don't like to think about it. But if we are trying to be Buddhists, we need to think about it using that as our tool. That's how you apply that tool. You think logically through it. Well, that's a sentient being. The 6-year-old, she looks like a human being to me, and she's a sentient being. That means she's got a mind. That means her mind came from before. That means she just got killed. She was in the room where the kid down the road didn't get killed. The next room didn't get killed. This particular one got killed. So what does that mean? She has to have had in her mind a karmic seed from past killing that she hadn't purified, that she hadn't pulled out by having regretted killing in the past. So that ripens in this good little girl's life, you know. So she got one track of karma called human birth. She won the lottery. She got a good human life. Amazing. From the consequences of past non-killing, the one particular track, as a result of incredible morality, she got a human birth. Amazing. Then another track of karma is all her tendencies. She might have been a saintly little child, loving, compassionate, kind. Or indeed, she might have been a potential little psycho, like poor little Adam. I'm not being mean now. You understand psycho, meaning suffering Adam Lanza. We don't know, because all children are innocent as far as we're concerned. Hitler was a baby once, and we met little Adolf. Isn't he cute? Then if Adolf got killed, we was, is that terrible, innocent children dying? We love to have innocent victims. We're desperate for innocent victims. We want innocent victims. So there's a little innocent little 6-year-old. So everything in us, we have to argue with that if we're trying to be Buddhist. And it's not comfortable because our attachment doesn't like that. It's too scary, so we make it go away. Oh, it can't be right. But if we're trying to be Buddhist, we use this tool. Think of it carefully. Analyze it. Hypothesize the possibility as an answer to the question, why? That's all. As an answer to the question, why? That's Buddha's answer. We will consider it. So then what do I do with that? We think, oh my God, what do I do with that thought? Where do I go with this? Well, where you go is compassion. Where else? If it is true, we think. Well, first you apply it to yourself. No, first you apply it to yourself, which is what gives you renunciation. First you apply it to yourself. Forget the compassion one. First yourself. You think, okay, I'm a sentient being too, like the 6-year-old. I'm a human, in a human body, with a human life. I must have created virtue to get a human body, but I've also got the track of karma called tendencies. And I've also got the track of karma called experiences, the things that will happen to me. Now, I'm not clairvoyant. I do not see that I haven't got killing karmic seeds in my mind that might ripen as me being killed by a terrorist or a dropping dead one day from a bone stuck in my throat, or a car accident, or my husband killing me. Yeah, if I don't behave. Because the experience is similar to the cause in terms of a negative action would be it happening to you. And in terms of killing, it could be it happening to you, you getting killed. Or you're dying young, merely dying young, just dropping dead, seemingly for no cause. No medical cause, as they say it in the West. Or you're being sick. These are the experiences similar to the cause of past killing. So we analyse that. We look into our own life and you go, yeah, I recognise that. I get sick all the time. Well, that's the result of my past killing. And that means, and one of the key things that purifies this particular one of the experience of something is the regretting of it. So right there you think, okay, I regret whatever killing I've ever done in the past. No question. I don't want to have to get killed, thank you. This is how you apply it in daily life. To you, right there, this second, as you're reading the newspaper. This is how you apply. Because right now, you see, all it is how to think, isn't it? All Buddhism is a way of thinking, a way of interpreting the world, that's all. All we have now is a way of thinking, of interpreting the world. But our problem is, you see, because we're in the world that thinks like this, we don't think it's an interpretation. We just think it's the way it is. Do you see the point? We are so, because everybody thinks it, we give it self-existence. We see it as absolute, out there, concrete, true. Like, people who are materialists, they say, oh, I don't believe in anything. They don't think they have a view at all. This is the worst part, actually. This is emptiness now. As long as our Rinpoche says, ordinary life, we don't even think that our mind plays any role. We don't think that when we see something out there, whether it's a child dying or a chocolate cake, we don't think, ordinary speaking, that our mind is interpreting it. This is really all what we're discussing here. We don't think that when we say, oh, that's a gorgeous chocolate cake, it'll make me happy, we don't think we're interpreting it. We just think that's true. And this is the meaning of emptiness. We think that thought, it's delicious and will make me happy, is in the cake. And I'm just responding to it. We just see a 6-year-old die and we think, how dare that happen, that evil person, that's innocent, that's wrong. We don't think that's an interpretation. We think that's objectively true. That's the grasping at things as self-existent. And so the beginnings of practicing is to begin to notice that your mind is having a thought about something and that thing isn't necessarily what you think. The way it appears to you, delicious divine cake, doesn't necessarily exist in the cake. This is the part, this is the emptiness part, and this can come on from karma. Unbelievable. Shakes the ground we live in, The way things appear to us, innocent 6-year-old, how dare it happen, this evil person, oh my God, is not the way it exists. That's just my view. It's an interpretation. So everything Buddha says, everything without exception, that beings experience is experienced through the filter of their thoughts, the filter of their view, of view. Even just saying there's a cup, we wouldn't say that's a viewpoint. We'd say, but that's true, Robina, that's not a viewpoint. Wrong. It's a thought. There is a cup. That's a thought, right? There is a cup. It's a thought. There is a cup. It's a thought. A 6-year-old died, it's wrong. That's a delicious chocolate cake. They're thoughts, people. They're thoughts. They're thoughts. And that's what runs the show. So the beginning, to begin to notice your thoughts is, I tell you, stupendous. This is the real beginning of real practice, of beginning to shake the universe. Noticing that everything that you see and hear and smell and taste is seen through the filter of your interpretation. And that as we continue to look at reality, we're going to unpack it and strip away the layers and strip away the layers until eventually we discover there is nothing from the side of the cup, or Adam Lanza's action, or the innocent child dying, that exists in that from its own side. That's a fact, Buddha says. That's as scary as hell. Which doesn't mean Adam Lanza didn't kill an innocent 6-year-old child and that there isn't a cup there. Doesn't contradict that. And that's the tricky part. So we have to shake our minds completely to the root. See our assumptions. Every second we're walking around with our mind riddled with assumptions. And we're on default mode. So what we're trying to do using Buddha's tools is shake every one of them. Every second of every day is enough information we receive in a day to actually have enough to get you to be enlightened. There's enough in this cup right there for you to see emptiness. It's just up to us to shake our minds and stop living, stop being asleep. The word, sometimes I interpret the word Buddha as fully awake, indicating that we are fast asleep. We're just living on autopilot, dead, just a little kind of like a robot, just responding habitually, no awareness at all. This is how we change it. Grinding our little wheels in our head to reinterpret ordinary life. Every second it happens. There's an opportunity to think about impermanence, karma, emptiness, and then the one that's coming, bodhicitta, which is amazing. This is the basis. And you apply it to you. Not just intellectual. You think about the child and then you think, that's me. That'll happen to me. So then you think, what do I do about that? How do I think about impermanence? Well, I better start waking up, hadn't I? And seeing things as impermanent, seeing it as they are, and stop grasping at things as permanent. That's how I learned that lesson. And realise that I will die. Can be today. Sounds hilarious. We don't believe it for 1 second. Even though I say the words, I could die today. It's like a joke. Everything in me is screaming, don't be ridiculous. So that's already huge, just that, impermanence. Then the one of karma, already incredible. So what am I going to do with that? I better purify my karma. That means I better regret right this second any killing I've ever done since beginningless time. Because, hey, I don't want to die young. Or, and I don't want to die old, I suppose, too, is it now? I'm not young anymore. I've discovered that I'm definitely in the old people category. I always thought I was middle-aged still. But that's way behind.
It's a thought.
Huh?
It's a thought.
No, they said that you just chucked the baby out with the bathwater. Complete mistake. You became nihilistic. Right there you were nihilistic. I am old and I am 68. That is technically correct. There is a cup. So you just became nihilistic. It is a thought, but it is a thought. But it's a thought that's in sync with reality. There is a cup. It is a thought, but it's true. There is a cup. The divine, delicious cup that will make me happy, that's a thought, but that's not true thought. So there are some, this is the point, there are some thoughts we have that are in sync with conventional reality. And there are some thoughts we have that aren't, and they're the ones we have to sort out. All thoughts are rooted in the lie of self-existence. But the grosser deluded ones are rooted in the lie of just plain mistake. There is no beautiful cup from its own side there that'll make me happy, but there is a cup, conventionally. But there's not conventionally a beautiful cup that'll make me happy, which is the cup that attachment sees. That's the difference there. So there is a fact I'm 68, and it is a fact I am old. Call, you know, sort of young, teenager, you know, what do you call the next ones? Then middle age, then old. I am in the old category. It's a fact. I'm a senior citizen. I get cheap at the movies and things, you know. But I heard I get that Medicare. What's it called? What?
Medicare.
Medicare. I get that one apparently. I haven't had a reason to yet, but I could go to the hospital and they'd serve me, would they? Just by being old.
You have to do papers.
Oh, you do papers?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't done the papers yet. Oh.
Isn't that what students are for? Do the papers for?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's like the movies. They didn't ask me for my papers. She offered me citizens. It was night. We went to see Hitchcock last night. That movie, you know, with, what's his name in it? Who was it?
Sir Anthony.
Anthony Hopkins and Helen Mirren and Toni Collette. It was okay. I wouldn't see it again. We were wanting to see Django Unchained, and it showed it on the sign on the board. We got so excited, but it's not until Christmas Day. We, you know, have a couple of days. I was feeling like a bit of Tarantino violence. We didn't get it. Anyway, where was I? Labels. Okay, so then, all right. So okay, so impermanence. So you think about it, but then you apply. Not just think about it intellectually, which is comfortable, but you then apply it to yourself. That's when it gets nervous, and that's the point. You apply it to yourself. Then the karma, you see it, you interpret, blah 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 blah, tick tick tick, all the boxes, understand it, correct, like a little test. You know, you pass your test, and then you apply it to yourself. That'll be me. So then you go, what do I do with it? Well, I better regret the past killing. I better, and then crucially, vow never to kill again. So I won't do what Anna Lanza did. He killed because he didn't vow to kill again. He'd been in the lower realms in the past due to killing. But he didn't purify by vowing never to kill. So he finished that karma, the main karma, gets a human life like a miracle, but tragically the imprint is still there. And then those little girls and boys had been in the lower realms too at some point, according to Buddha, purified that karma, miracle, get a human birth, but they hadn't regretted killing, so they got killed. This is what Buddha's teaching is saying, you apply it. Then you think, me, that's me now. Okay, I better fix it. Regret, do all the purification, right there. Apply it right there to yourself. Then you think the karma one. You apply that. Well, first the impermanence one, then the karma one. Now the compassion one. Well, the emptiness one comes after that. Then the compassion one, which is the point. So you see the suffering. You go, oh my God, this is unbearable. It freaks you out. You have a panic. Then you think, of course you then would think, what can I do about it? You think, what can I do about it? You see, compassion, general, ground, ordinary compassion is the thought, I don't want that suffering. Look at you see the suffering and you empathize with it. Love, which is the flip side, is you see a person happy and you are delighted in their happiness, or you want a person to be happy. That's what love is. So love relates to happiness, and then you extend it to a more dramatic level, which is the bodhisattva level, and you say, what can I do to make them happy? You take personal responsibility. That you must cultivate. That's the unique characteristic of the bodhisattva level of love and compassion. Love is this stupendous happiness that others are happy. We can have that, lots of it. It can delight us that people are happy. It suits us. We're happy that people are happy. We're happy that everything's working nicely. We see Christmas all laughing and chatting, all your relatives getting along. We're delighted. But that's not enough. We've got to go to the next level and say, how can I make it happen? Especially if they're not happy. How can I make, I want them to be happy. I wish they could be happy. But then we've got to say, how can I make them happy? That's this, is that a hand?
Yes.
Yes, darling. What's the question? Yeah.
My belief is you can't make nobody happy because you have to be happy with yourself. You can't make me happy.
That's right. But that's not what I'm discussing.
Okay.
I didn't discuss that. We're not saying that.
Okay.
I did not say here, I must make you happy. No.
Yeah.
So what do you think a bodhisattva's doing? Okay, let's look and analyse what a bodhisattva thinks. This is what we're trying to do here, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What are they trying to think? What do you have to want to think? If you see someone you understand the idea of reaching out to somebody and trying to make them happy?
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Who says that I will receive your kindness? That's not something else. No, it's not saying it's not saying that it's not putting the responsibility on you to guarantee that I will accept, that I will become happy when you reach out to me. That is my business, and you can never expect that. That's absolutely correct. But you have to cultivate the wish to make, because that's what makes you get past yourself, out of your own self-cherishing, out your own skin, and reach out to another person.
Thank you.
That's a vital, vital, vital difference. That's the way we are now, I think, with our guilt. So we go to Christmas lunch, and there's our neurotic mother yet again, and then we feel her with all her vampire-like craving for me and her attachment to me and her expectations about me, and I'm overwhelmed by that, so I try to make her happy. But because she's got attachment, can you hear me? We do have competition. Because I've got all this attachment, which means here I am trying to make my mummy happy, and how dare she not accept it? How dare she not become happy? That just comes back and makes me feel unhappy. So then I get all distressed out. So that's because I've got attachment to her being happy, because my attachment's like a junkie and wants things to be nice. And then because I'm craving to be loved by others, if I dare to do something to make you happy and you don't accept it, then I'm offended. But that's attachment talking. So love is attempting to go past attachment. It's this genuine wish I have to make my mother happy, right? And then no expectations. It's up to her. If she accepts it, it's up to her. And if she's got bucket loads of attachment, she won't get happy. But that doesn't mean I don't stop trying. But with no strings.
Thank you.
That's a huge difference, isn't it? So the wish to make others happy is what gets you out of your own skin to reach out, you know. And then, as I said, no expectation as to whether the person accepts it. Because some people, because their attachment is so enormous, and that could be your old junkie mummy, you know, your old suffering mummy, it could be. But no matter what, we all know, no matter what you do, she's like a bottomless pit, you know, isn't it? We know people like that. Not being mean. Are we communicating here?
Yes, yes.
No matter what we do, she will always want more. And that's what attachment is. It's the most terrible, terrible suffering. We know in some relationships, our partner's like that, or we're like that. No matter what they do to make us happy, we're never, ever, ever satisfied. We're like a junkie, craving more. It's terrifying. But from our side here, the love and compassion, and the practice of love and compassion, is to have the courage to cultivate the view, the thought, what can I do to make them happy? It's, as His Holiness says, it's this, he used to refer to this as universal responsibility. And this is the unique characteristic of the Bodhisattva path. The one that says, what can I do? So that's for love, for example. Love is the wish to make people happy. So at your Christmas dinner, at your lunch, you know, the person you don't particularly like, that's how you would practice that level of love. You see them looking miserable, you see them looking lonely, and you'd rather just avoid them. But you just smile, hello, how are you, Mary? And you reach out, you know. Then you've got compassion. And I remember asking Geshe Tekchok, what comes first, love or compassion? He said it depends on the person. But usually in the end when they're highly developed, they're there. They're just flip sides of the same coin. You know, love is this wish that others be happy. And then even more, what can I do? They refer to that sometimes as an extra level. It's kind of called great love. Sounds strange. Then you've got compassion, which is empathy with someone suffering. The thought really is, may they not suffer. That's the bare bones definition of compassion. You see a person suffering, you wish they didn't suffer. You want them not to suffer. Or you have empathy for their suffering. Now with the children, that one definitely can rise massively, can't it? Incredible compassion. And then compassion for their parents and the family and the kids at school. Enormous compassion, meaning you feel their suffering. But we have to be extremely careful, which is why we have to think about karma first, not to fall into the trap of getting angry. Because we feel panic-stricken. Why did that happen? And because we assume there's no reason, because we don't have the view of karma, we then jump instantly into anger or despair. So we have to, this is the real application. And that's why, don't underestimate how clear and analytical you need to be first. You've got to get the thoughts correct first, like a recipe. I'm really not joking here. This seems opposite to spiritual to us. We think it's all these big feelings, you know. But you've got to learn to know the thoughts first, so that the feelings that will develop will be correct feelings. Are we communicating here?
Yes.
It's like when you learn music. You can't suddenly play Bach perfectly and get incredible feeling from that music. It's completely opposite to feeling. You're squeezing your brain, you're squeezing your fingers, you're exhausted. But you know you've got to get it right. And then when your fingers are familiar and your mind is familiar, then the feeling can afford to grow. Are you seeing my point?
Yes.
It's the same here with thoughts. You've got to start with the right thoughts. Understand what Buddha means by love, by compassion. Activate those thoughts, think those thoughts. And slowly, with practice, they become spontaneous. Then immediately genuine feeling based on impermanence and karma and emptiness will arise in your mind. That's what being a Buddhist means, you know. Yes?
Could you address more about spontaneity of being moment to the moment? And
No, I know, John. I'm not interested in that right now.
Okay.
Not interested in that. Forget spontaneity. You can't be spontaneous when you're learning music. I'm talking about the learning stage now.
No, I understand.
You see, when you're learning that new music, when you're learning to drive a car, when you're learning new tools, when you're learning how to make a cake, I do not want spontaneity because you'll make a mistake. Kindly back off, get out of spontaneity and be clinical and technical and do what the recipe says. Then you will become spontaneous once you've got it learned. Spontaneity arises out of correct analysis. Are you seeing my point here? So right now, I remember, you know, reading about this young, this 19-year-old white supremacist who, when he read Hitler, spontaneously, you know, he was spontaneously responded to it. Oh, that's just how I feel. I've felt I've come home. That was spontaneous. But look at what it was based on, dear. So we shouldn't, you know, reify spontaneity. We make it kind of a bit naive, I think. You know, we know very well when we're learning any kind of thing, we can't afford to be spontaneous until you've learned it. Well, same here in our interpretation of the world. Right now, one would spontaneously be angry. Oh, because it's spontaneous, we think it's good. Load of rubbish, it's not. So, okay, love and compassion. So you've got the bare bones love. May you be happy. The bare bones compassion. May you not suffer. We cultivate that. Then we have on top of that, great, if you like, great love, great compassion, which is the one that says, what can I do that puts you as responsible, that's the attitude of the bodhisattva. That's the courageous attitude of the bodhisattva. And that's a big one, because the inertia of the inertia of self-cherishing, the inertia of comfort for me is very deep, and the mind doesn't even go there. You see, poor people, oh, it's so terrible, all this suffering. We never want to say the thought, what can I do to help? We just close that off and then, go to the next story. So we've got to say, this is how we get to bodhicitta. We're not at bodhicitta yet. We've got to say, what can I do? That's the attitude of a bodhisattva. It's, as Lama Zopa says, if I don't do it, or they say in the teachings, if I don't do it, who will? That's the attitude. This is the attitude of a mother. So we understand it. Your kid could be drowning. You're on the beach and you see your kid drowning. Of course you're going to have love and compassion. You're going to have instantaneous, spontaneous, unbelievable, panic-stricken compassion for your child. But you don't look around saying, well, who's going to save my baby? You're in that water whether you can swim or not. That's great compassion. You know it's your job. You know it's your job. That's the one we're trying to cultivate. So we have to have the bravery to say, and like reading about Connecticut, what can I do, we'd say. You've got to say that question. You've got to ask yourself, what can I do? Once you've seen this unbearable suffering, what can I do to help? And then, of course, 99% of the time, you have to answer, well, not much. I can't bring them back alive. I can't help Adam Lanza. He's dead too. I can't help the parents. There's no point in me sticking their nose and going to give them some friendly feelings. They don't want me. I'm a stranger. So in the end, I can't do anything to change it. I can't do anything to help the people there. Okay, you can do something, like one of my friends went on one of the sites and liked one of the little girls because she had orange hair and her second name was Violet because she liked the colour violet, so she decided, and she liked animals, this little girl, so she went and offered some money to an animal shelter for the little girl because the parents asked. That's doing something. There you go, fantastic. Do something, But mostly, besides doing that, you then have to really look and think, how do I apply this to me? What can I do? Well, I can't do much to help them, but I've got people in front of me. I'm going to Christmas lunch tomorrow and I can't stand my grandpa. So I'm going to be kind to him. That's what I can do. That much I can do. I'll attempt to be kind. I'll attempt not to badmouth my sister. I'll attempt not to fight with my uncle. I can do that. I will try and think of them more than me. That I can do. That much I can do. But then you go to bodhicitta. If you're on this path, you will then go to bodhicitta. And then you'll say, but in the long term, what can I do? I've got that. All I can do is just keep moving on my path, practicing this path, which will end up in my being a Buddha. So this compassion, this impermanence, the karma, the emptiness, the compassion, the love, will all bring you to the momentum of, what can I do? I have no choice but to continue working in myself, working on my path, never giving up, becoming a Buddha. Because why? Because then I will be qualified to help any sentient being for as long as time exists, because that's what a Buddha is. That's bodhicitta. That thought's bodhicitta. That's how you apply these tools in your daily life every day. But you've got to know the thoughts first. You've got to know the structure. Just like with music. And then practicing it, and practicing it, and practicing it, and practicing it, then spontaneity comes. Genuine, sound, spontaneity based on perfect wisdom. That's the spontaneity we want. Any questions about that?
Do you want to wait for the mic?
Yeah.
Two questions, please. The first is back to your cup example. Is it the qualifiers and the judgments that make it a thought rather than a fact?
No, anything is a thought. Whatever the way our mind works now, it just lives on thoughts, isn't it? It's thoughts which are viewpoints, which are concepts, which are interpretations of whatever we're experiencing. They're all thoughts. They're all equal in being thoughts.
I'm sorry, you said that's a cup.
Yeah,
so that's not a thought.
I said it's a thought, isn't it?
Oh, it is a thought.
It is a
It's still
thought.
a thought.
But listen to me. This is the point here now. This is the point. We live in a dualistic world of things, don't we? Would you agree with that? We do have a world of there's me here and things out there. On a relative level, we can't say that's not true. So, but we're trying to unpack where all this stuff comes from. We're trying to unpack, using Buddha's view, the evolution of all this and what creates things and why are these things and why are there wars and why are there cups and what is a cup for that matter. That's what we're trying to analyse, right?
Right.
Okay. So, is everyone happy with a crying baby? Or it's good for your practice, or you want the baby to go?
We're okay. We're okay.
It's very good, or it's not very good. So each one has to decide.
It's good.
There you go. Very good. Okay, so it's good for concentration. Okay. What's the baby's name? I might as well be personal about it.
Libby.
What?
This is Libby, and she seems to try to outdo you when you raise your voice.
Libby,
When you
hello.
raise your voice, she goes, ah!
That's right. Hello, Libby.
Oh, she's copying.
Hello, Libby.
Hi, Libby.
Okay, so let's go here. This is emptiness discussion, okay? So do you agree when I say the words, there is a cup on my table, do you agree that that's a thought in my mind?
Yes.
It's a thought, isn't it?
Sure.
And then do you agree when I say there are 2 cups on my table, that that's a thought?
Yes.
And they're both equal in being thoughts, aren't they? Now this is Buddha's entire point. Well, not entire, I was exaggerating. It's a fundamental point. He is saying the creator of the universe and all the things in it is all coming from the mind. Everything comes from the mind. There's no creator out there who is the boss that runs things. Every single concept, every single thought, every single mind stream is continually having thoughts and then doing actions on the basis of those thoughts with the body and speech, thus, quotes, creating karma. It's kind of energy we build up, okay? So it all comes down, to unpack it all, we come down, we get back to the mind, and that's thought. So everything in the mind really is Buddha's saying, is a view, is a viewpoint. It's a viewpoint, yeah? There's a cup on my table, is a viewpoint. There are 2 cups on my, can we just finish it, please? There are 2 cups on my table, it's a viewpoint, right? So speaking now at conventional level, the Buddha's saying, we all have thoughts, but the point is this, some are accurate, some are in sync with conventional reality. Well, this is the first level, and some aren't. So here already a massive practice to sort out the facts from the fiction. If we did this, we wouldn't have realised emptiness yet. We wouldn't be out of samsara yet. Samsara would be perfect and blissful. Because we'd never have a wrong thought. We would never do, that means we'd never have anything negative. Which means we'd never have attachment. We'd never have anger. We'd never have jealousy and all the rest. Because they are all thoughts. But they're just exaggerated, neurotic, misplaced, inaccurate thoughts. They are not in sync with what's real. So I have a thought, there's 1 cup on my table, then I have another thought, that's a beautiful cup on my table, which means I'm attached to it, which means attachment's thinking that that cup makes me happy. Attachment makes me think it's my cup. Attachment makes me then possess it and want you not to have it. Attachment then makes me get upset when you take it, or get freaked out when it breaks. It leads to all these mistaken attitudes, all based upon a fundamental lie in my mind that I can't distinguish as a lie, because I think, because I feel it, it must be true. It's not true. It's a bunch of thoughts, but they're wrong thoughts. They have no objective basis whatsoever.
Yes, I see.
We're not talking about emptiness yet. We're talking about attachment thoughts that give rise to all the others. They're lies, they're embellishments, they're projections, they're fantasies that our minds make up. I'm not talking even the subtlest one yet, about there being no cup from its own side. Forget that one. We're talking relative reality. Can you hear me? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So our job day to day is sorting out the facts from the fiction.
So is it every qualifier?
What?
Is it every qualifier that would be a thought and not a fact? The fact that it's a blue cup is without judgment, but the fact that it's a beautiful...
No, stop.
Yeah.
No. A blue cup is also a thought and it's also a view.
Is it?
So this is getting us to emptiness now. We're first established conventionally it is a cup. It is a blue cup. Let's look at, we're talking conventional reality and ultimate reality. We're just discussing conventional here. Just conventional. Meaning Conventionally true. Look at the meaning of the word conventional. It's kind of tasty. By convention. So I remember those lovely ads that HSBC does. Have you seen them? They have one person taking their shoes off. We can't keep Libby. Is that another person now? Who's now loud? Not just Libby. Who's the next one? Who's this one? Who's that?
Henry.
Oh, that's Henry. So in Henry we have Saskia and we have Libby. Well, welcome, girls and boys. I'm not complaining. Okay. No, they don't need love and compassion. They're fine. Okay. Okay. We have conventional reality. And look at the word convention. By convention, by agreement. So the HSBC ads shows one person taking their shoes off and leaving them at the door. And in Asia that's called good manners. But if you go to a fancy party in the West and you take your shoes off, you're considered very bad mannered. So where's the truth? That's the proof of it's a convention in one country that taking your shoes off is good, and it's a convention in another country that taking shoes off is bad. So there's no good or bad taking shoes off. That's the meaning of emptiness. It's a convention. But it's still relative to that situation. So there's a relative truth to it. So first we have to establish what's conventionally true. Let's get the nuts and bolts of conventional reality. Let's get the correct thoughts in the head. Because Buddha says mostly we haven't even got conventional reality true. I don't think, and this is leading us to ultimate reality. This is leading us to how things don't have any inherent nature of anything. But there is a blue cup on my table. So how do we prove that? And this is what we have to do first. How do we establish what does exist? Because the whole discussion in Buddhism is about, in the wisdom teachings, is discussing what does exist and what doesn't. So we have to first establish what does exist conventionally before we can discuss how it exists. So I first have to say, cup. Well, I'll go, Mummy, what's a cup? She'll give me a definition. And a definition has two parts. The first part tells you its conventional characteristics. She'll say, oh, it's that flat-bottomed container made of clay with a blue fish on it. And I'll be able to immediately see it. I'll go, oh yeah, right, look, I see it. But I don't know what it is yet. But Mummy, what does it do? And this is the crucial part of the definition. It tells you its job or its function. Once you've got it, oh well, darling, it holds my tea. Now I know what a cup is. You've got to define it. And this is our problem in daily life, with emotions and stuff. We all define our terms when it comes to cooking and music. That's why we can be brilliant at it. But when it comes to relationships, I'm sorry, forget it. I'll say, I love you, and you'll say, oh yeah, and I love you. And we actually think we're agreeing. But you write your version of that and your expectations and your definition, and I write mine. We've got two separate books there. No wonder when things start to go wrong we have wars, because we haven't defined our terms. Are you hearing me, people? So it is vital to get some kind of sense of clarity. What is morality? What is good? What is bad? What is love? In the same level of precision and clarity that we know we need for cooking and maths. Buddha says we must have this for this type of thing. You with me, people? So anyway, there's a cup. You have to establish it. We establish it by defining it. We've named it cup. It's a sound coming out of my mouth. We define it. Now, that's not enough. We've got to prove that it is that conventionally. So I'll get my tea and I'll pour it in and, oh look, Mummy, it does hold tea. I just proved it does hold tea. So it fits the definition. Are you with me? But we've got to do one more checking here. You've got to make sure there are no other valid cognitions of it, meaning correct states of correct thoughts in other people's minds that don't contradict that. And once you've established this, now you are comfortable. Conventionally, there is a cup. Relax and enjoy. You understand? Now, what's interesting here, if we really got that, we would also, at the same time, realize the emptiness of the cup. Because it's like Buddha says, that's all a cup is. It's merely labeled a cup. You give it a name, you call it that, you made it that, it holds the tea, it does function. But hey, that's all. There's nothing from the side of the cup that makes it that. But we think there is. And that's the mistake of grasping at things as inherent. And that's the cause of all of samsara, which sounds kind of shocking to us. Certainly doesn't seem evident. So we have to then do the unpacking, do the analysis, do the deconstructing. Because what we're attempting to get to is by seeing what a conventional cup is, what a cup is conventionally, we then have to investigate what it is ultimately. And but the Buddha says what you will find doing the correct analysis is that there is no cup from its own side, out there in the cup, in its nature, self-existently, inherently, intrinsically. These are all synonyms. So we are puzzled when we hear that because we're thinking, why is Buddha telling us there is no cup from its own side? Whoever said there was, we think. But what we don't realise is we think there is a cup from its own side. We think there's an intrinsic cup there. We think there's an inherent cup there. We don't think we think that because the mistake is eons old and is the basis of all suffering. So he's pointing out to us our mistake. So seeing emptiness, quote unquote, is seeing the absence of that lie. And the lie is in the mind. It's all made by the mind. This is how Buddha's talking. So what Buddha's saying, we have to sort out the facts from the fiction. And what a Buddha mind is a mind that is finally rid completely of even the smell of the lies. That all the delusions, the lies, the misconceptions have been utterly removed to the nth degree. That's the point of all Buddha's teachings. He says that's the natural state of all minds, to be free of this nonsense. And that's the job. So the job is sorting out what's in your mind. The job is seeing everything as a view. Some are conventionally correct, and some are conventionally incorrect. Let's sort that lot out first. That there is a cup that does hold my tea, but it's not a delicious cup that will make me happy that holds my tea, which I think there is. That's why I possess it and get upset when it breaks. That's all the dramas we add on top of the bare bones fact that there's a cup there. So that's the lie. Now, it's easy to see the lie, conventional lie, when I say there are two cups on my table. That's easy to see. It's a thought, but it's a lying thought. It's an incorrect thought. It's a wrong view. That's easy to see. That's easy to see. But to see that the cup I'm seeing is a divine, delicious cup that will make me happy cup, that lie is harder to see. Are you hearing me, people? Because it's the same cup and it's merged with the truth. So the lie and the truth are merged together for me, and I just see the cup that I think is there. Just like a racist, when they see pink people. They don't go, oh yes, when I see pink people, I see this and that, and I do realise it's just my projection. You get my point here? They don't say that. They just say, there is a pink person who is that. Now, sorry, racists aren't the only ones. Look at your own life. Look at why you fight at Christmas. Because you're right and your auntie's wrong. That's fundamentalism. And that's what the lies are doing. Because our experience of auntie and uncle and grandma and the food is filtered through our attachment and our aversion and our anger and our pride and our negativity. And we can't see the difference. That's the tricky part. And that's what needs immense inner work. This is why it all comes down to the mind, what it says. Are we communicating, Camilla?
Yes. Thank you. Could I ask one more question?
Yes.
I want to ask a little bit more about the part the mind plays in creating karma.
Yeah.
We spoke about feeling and intention accompanying the action,
Yes.
preceding the action.
That's right.
What about witnessing?
What's that mean? You have to give me a definition of this one.
Is some part of karma the result of? I mean, if what we focus on continually, we create.
Give an example.
I guess my question, it has to do in part with someone who's working continually with Syrians on the ground, for instance, in the middle of a war, or working with the mentally ill, working with a great deal of suffering and ugliness, and they're not perfect Buddhas.
That's right.
how do you not hold those imprints in your mind?
What imprint?
The ugliness, the suffering.
Sweetheart, because you're seeing it through the eyes of compassion. That's why. If you see it through the eyes of anger and how dare and this is wrong and this is evil and this is horrible, and so that's what it becomes for you. That's what it becomes for you. That's next life you'll be Adam Lanza. But if you see that and you interpret it as suffering, you interpret the monsters doing it to the victims as their suffering. You literally see the same thing with your eyes. Like the fisherman, the example I use of this little boy who's, saw the fishing, went fishing for all his life, saw fish flapping, never saw suffering. He saw it through his eyes of wanting to keep doing it and wanting to kill. That's what he saw, so that's the habit he created. His mother went on the boat with him one time. What she saw was suffering fish. So in the end, there is still even something happening, a flapping fish. One just sees it as, oh, that's just the way it is, and keeps wanting to do more of it. The other says, this is unbearable, how can I change it? So in the end, everything is grist for the mill for how you interpret it. There is nothing from the side of that violence that is anything. It's except what our minds make it.
So that's really to say you shouldn't engage in such work unless you're
Oh my
able
God,
to do that.
you do your best. You be brave by interpreting these things according to your capacity. If, of course, you're not ready for it and you go there and it makes you want to kill all the murderers, well, then you're in big trouble. Back off, please. You're not ready. If you're trying to lift a big ton weight and it'll break your back, don't do it. You do it, but you've got to be brave. Stretch yourself beyond your capacity. Get tired, have a cry, get up next day and keep moving. If you have a path and a way of doing it. But if you don't know what to do and you're going crazy, get the hell out if you can. Do you see?
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Yes. Where are we? Over here, please. Okay. Yes, my dear.
Hi. So when you say conventionally true,
Yeah.
it always makes me feel like there's like one truth. And when I think about the cup,
Yeah.
I think of how, there are like a billion sentient beings, like microbes in the cup who are thinking of as an ocean.
That's right.
And so there isn't even really, or an artist who looks at it and thinks that they're going to mix paints in it, not like it's used just for tea or
That's why you've got
something.
to find your terms. That's why you've got to find your terms. So for us, we agree, this is the point of convention. Hey, this is the point.
It's just a view.
No, you and I can say, yeah, we agree, it's cup, tick, we shake on that. It holds tea, we shake on that. That's what convention means. For someone else, it'll be a toilet. If you agree and I agree that's our toilet, that'll become our potty at night, baby. No, it's very simple. We decide what it is. And if it functions, you can't say it's a knife and then you define a knife as something that cuts things. That it will never be. You can't be that. You define it. And so whatever, two of us will see it as that and we'll agree it's that. So it is that. And it happens to be the whole world agrees it's a cup, otherwise we'll be in big trouble. That's all. Of course there's nothing of its own side. You're just saying it's about emptiness. You're right. But that doesn't shut out the fact that it is a cup. That it does function as a cup. Exactly. Precisely. What else, folks? Only 20 past 11. So are you getting some tools?
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Rabina, I have another
Yeah,
question,
please,
maybe
go.
going ahead
Doesn't matter,
of
go.
things. The whole move from emptiness to compassion, there's to bodhicitta. It seems like that the bodhicitta comes from emptiness, and
They're hand in hand.
and
They
that
don't,
sort of-
okay, technically they don't come from each other, but you can absolutely say that every time you let go of grasping at I, you just creep towards loving others. And every time you love others, you just chip away at the I. So they totally help each other. But working only on bodhicitta will only get you so far, and working only on emptiness will get you so far. That's why you've got to have both. A person who's got emptiness but hasn't got bodhicitta, they only go so far. There's still more to go. And a person who's only got bodhicitta technically is never out of samsara because still there's the assumption of an I being compassionate. And you can only go so far there. They've got roofs on them, limits, As the two of them together, that's when they can go limitless to enlightenment. Literally. That's why you've got to have both. But you've got to do each work separately. Do you understand?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Someone else? Yes, Bob.
I was wondering if you could say more about the the nuts and bolts of how attachment works and how it's alive, because I have trouble seeing how to focus on the difference between, you know, if I really want a candy bar, I have trouble seeing that I'm thinking the candy bar is going to make me happy, because intellectually I know I'll eat the candy bar and I'll like it and then it'll be over.
Okay, there's no argument, it's okay, we just get clear which bit, so let's do that. So here we are living in conventional bodies, you know, in a world where we have candy bars and nice things and like that. So, okay, first of all, it's all according to your level of practice. So if we're only at the first stage and that candy bar is called alcohol and you're an alcoholic, then it's very clear, isn't it, that the immensity of the attachment to it, the craving for it, the need for it, the belief when I get it that I'll get happy, the inability to control that, and all the other dramas that come from it is so intense that you can't afford to have the alcohol. You've got to simply say no to the alcohol. That seems reasonable. So the first level of practice is back off, and your attachment's going to have to suffer here, until eventually it calms down. Then the next level, for the candy bar level, we're not complete junkies for it, you know, and there's a candy bar. So attachment is the part of the mind which is very, very deeply ingrained. And at the moment, until you almost realise emptiness, you might as well say that when we do have a candy bar, there's going to be attachment there at some level. So that's why we have to work on it. Be vigilant and know what it means and be able intellectually even distinguish between attachment and the truth. So attachment is saying, attachment first of all comes, its energetic level, coming from past lives. We're born with this instinctive, talk about spontaneous, we're born with this deep instinctive belief that I haven't got enough, a deep profound dissatisfaction, an aching feeling of not enough. And we can see some people have bucket loads of this, like their life is a nightmare because they never ever 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 are satisfied. Talk about the glass is half empty. You understand what I'm saying? That's the result of past attachment. We've all got that, this deep dissatisfaction, which is this hunger, this aching feeling that I don't have enough. So what does that give rise to? Obviously is, what can I find to fill up that gaping hole? And that, the most obvious level, is to function through the senses. So that's to the candy bars and the alcohol and the nice handsome bodies and the gorgeous this and the that and the that. That's the grossest level of this attachment. So this energy is hankering after something, through the objects of the senses, which we're flooded with all day, right? So then what it does, attachment, being a lie, one of the ways it lies, the key way all the neuroses lie, is that they exaggerate certain aspects of the object. Okay? They all do that. They all do that. Attachment specifically exaggerates the deliciousness of the object. Aversion exaggerates the ugliness of the object, right? They're the two key ones. And we're running between these 1,000 times a day. So then the candy bar rises in front of you. Maybe the thought arises first. Oh, I have a candy bar. Then you go find the candy bar, and there's the candy bar, and you see it. So the candy bar that is looking to you like out there, because there's attachment, looks delicious, doesn't it? Doesn't it look delicious? If you analyse, if we can catch all the story that happens in a millisecond in our mind because it's on autopilot, and that's what we have to do, break that story down. It's got all these things happening. There's the neediness, there's the looking for it, the hankering, then that focuses the mind to go, the hand goes out, picks it up. First of all, it looks extremely delicious, doesn't it? It looks like the candy bar is kind of vibrating deliciousness. And then we believe that that's the candy bar. Now, if I'm seeing that candy bar and I don't like it, I get sick if I eat it. That's not the candy bar I'm seeing, is it? I see a disgusting candy bar and I go away from it. I don't want to have it. I avoid it. You see it as delicious, so you're magnetized. It's magnetizing you. It's looking delicious, and because and so then all this is happening like in a millisecond, and then you reach out to it and you put it in the mouth. And what's happening here is now the other aspect of attachment, which is massive expectation, huge anticipation, enormous. This is the hugest one, which feels so exciting to us because your stomach's empty, and it's like so exciting. You can't wait to get it in to get what attachment thinks it will get, which is satisfaction. You hear me? Attachments and believing 100% that when I get that mouthful, I'll get satisfied, meaning the pain will go away. You understand?
Yep.
And then what happens is, even as I'm having that first mouthful, so delicious, and it is delicious, this is fact now, it meets the tongue, and because of familiarity with it, and my particular makeup, chocolate meeting my tongue triggers a pleasant experience. That's valid, tick, check that box, that's fine. Do you understand? That's a correct statement. It does trigger pleasure, but it's completely mixed with the hunger and the grasping and the vampire. So already as I'm savouring it and having a delicious experience, already the attachment's frantically anticipating the next mouthful. Even before I have this one. Look at a little kid. You're stuffing the candy in this one, there's another one hand going out here, and you see someone over there take one and you burst into tears because you want it too. We behave a bit better now, that's all. We're not quite like the 3-year-old. But that reminder's working overtime. Attachment. So then another mouthful. And the anticipation is the anticipation of satisfaction. And that's what we're desperate. That's what attachment desperately believes, that the candy bar will bring that satisfaction, that bliss. So what happens is, as we're eating the candy bar, you know, you're feeling gradually the stomach getting fuller, and it's sort of distressing because you know that means you're going to start to eat less. You're going to have to. But the hunger, the neediness is still there. The attachment, the vampire is working overtime, frantically, hoping now, desperately, the next mouthful will do it. The next candy bar will do it. Because so what happens is this point where now you've got to stop putting the candy bar in the mouth because the stomach is full, but your mind is even more distressed because now you're terribly disappointed. Your anticipation has not been fulfilled. You're so disappointed. So you end up stressed out, no satisfaction at all, a full stomach, but the worst one of all, what you've actually done, which is the worst experience, the worst result of attachment, you've increased your hunger. So right now you're too full, you go to the toilet, your stomach will empty, and off you go again, hankering even more strongly after the object. So that part's attachment, and it runs the whole show. But there still is a good experience there. So lessening attachment means exercising discipline, which means you could have the candy bar, but you're watching your mind like a hawk. You know it won't satisfy your mind. Your stomach gets full, no problem. So you know that, and you're arguing with attachment, so you eat it more slowly. You maybe have a space between mouthfuls. You attempt to experience the pleasure, which is applying the tantric aspect, to actually try and experience the pleasure. Do you understand? And then you stop before you're stuffed. That's how you lessen. You're still hungry, you're desperate to get more in. Oh, maybe the next one, I'll sneak one in, you know, quickly. No, you control the attachment and you attempt to enjoy it more. That's applying actually the tantric one, the pleasure, you know. Do you understand?
Yeah, that makes it.
And then you add bodhicitta to it if you want to. You can add emptiness to it, that there's nothing from the side of the chocolate. It's completely my own projection. And then you can even add bodhicitta to it. I'm going to eat this, and to really make me happy, so I can continue working on myself, so I can be a sentient, to benefit sentient beings. You can add all these tools to your experience of eating cake, and why not? Why not? Why just make it a samsaric activity? Why just do it with guilt? This is how we do it now. And we think, how could I, you offer it. For 1 minute before you stuff it in your mouth, you visualize all the beings of the universe, all the Buddhas, all the sentient beings, them experiencing the pleasure of having it. You can't even conceive of how many virtuous seeds you just planted in your mind by having that thought. Then stuff your cake in happily. You understand my point? Because you just use that to see emptiness, to make generosity, and then to eat to make yourself happy. You use all these tools to transform what is a garbage action into something marvelous. But you know, we get guilty. Oh, how could I offer that? So when people smoke cigarettes, I see all these poor people like pariahs outside buildings now, you know, 20 degrees below, trying to get pleasure from their smoke. I mean, my God, I think it's so suffering, the poor things. So people who smoke, they all feel guilty, you know. I say, excuse me, offer your cigarettes. Offer it. Smoke as deeply as you can and offer it to the Buddha. Well, oh, I couldn't do that, it's bad. Well, then don't do it. Oh, no, I can't give it up. Well, then make your choice. If you're going to do something bad, at least offer it, please. At least sort of mitigate the nonsense. And I'm really serious here. You understand?
So you're offering the pleasure aspect that is real.
You're offering the pleasure, and you kind of say, you know, and you're offering the attachment. This is all from Tantra. mantra. And you think, please, anyway, to the Buddha, please guide me to get up this ridiculous attachment one day. But meanwhile, I offer you all my rubbish, you know. That's called the inner mandala. The inner mandala is offering all your delusions and all the nonsense. There's so many easy ways from the Bodhisattva path we can transform every little shitty bit of our life. But we all walk around fundamentalists feeling guilty, you know. You understand?
Yeah.
Then quickly, you'll get rid of it. Don't worry about it. It'll go. It's all you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Good. Yes, Bill.
In the purification little booklet, is it the entire visualization you said to exclude if you don't?
Well, the visualization, you haven't had initiation, you wouldn't
Exactly.
visualize with this consort. You just visualize without a consort, and then the nectar coming from his crown instead of through his secret organ. This is why it's not appropriate for people who haven't got initiation.
Yeah. Right.
You visualize just light coming from his heart, entering into you. That'll do.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What else, people? Anything else? Tools for Christmas? Holidays? Yeah.
Devin.
Yes, no. Devin?
So you were just talking about offering.
Yeah.
Can you talk about generosity and how to be like, because there's a difference between giving with attachment, I guess, and giving with
Oh, of
the
course
correct
there is.
motivation. So can you
Yeah,
talk
of
maybe
course,
about that kind of
mostly
motivation
now,
for
okay.
giving?
This is looking at our, this is looking at motivation, which means
Yeah.
looking at how we do actions, which is
Right.
looking at karma,
Yeah.
which means breaking down the components of an action. So normally right now, okay, doing any action, you've got the intention to do it, then you do the action, the person is there, no, the recipient is there, there's the action of giving, okay, there's the intention first, I will give, yeah? Then you have the object, the person, then you do the action and they receive it. That's a complete action of giving. It's a complete action of giving. But let's unpack intention. First of all, intention means karma. So you sow that seed in your mind. But then we've got to unpack it and look at the motivation part of it. Because every intention we have, every thought we have that then is expressed through our body or speech, we can see it if we analyse, is coming from we would say there's a reason behind it. They don't use the word reason in this way. Are you hearing me, people? Whatever we do, you put food in the mouth. Why? Oh, well, I'm hungry. You don't say, oh, because I hate food. No way. Why are you killing the mouse? Oh, I don't like mouse. What do you think? Why are you giving? Oh, it's my auntie. I like to give, you know. Do you understand? There's always a reason behind, and we never notice the reason. But if we look carefully at all our actions now, 99% of the time, the reason's attachment. Sorry to be disappointing, but it is. We analyse. The reason we do most things now is to make me happy. And then that's why we give. Because it's my auntie, my uncle. Because even if we don't like them, we'd feel embarrassed not to give them if they're coming for Christmas dinner. Because our reputation will be, will go down the toilet. So our reason now is very self-centered. It's called for me. That's why I kill the mouse, because it offends my attachment. So it's out of anger. Anything done out of anger is because of attachment, not getting what it wants. And that's what's mostly behind most of our actions. So guess what we do? We change the motivation. That's it. That's what's miraculous here. We change the motivation. We simply decide. That's where we feel guilty. So I'm smoking a cigarette. Okay, because I'm such a junkie, I'm smoking a cigarette. Oh, I feel so bad. I'm so evil. I shouldn't smoke. No. Change your motivation, please. How about saying, okay, I know it's hurting my body these days, I know it's attachment, but I'm going to smoke so that I can, I'm going to imagine breathing in nectar so that I can become a healthy person so I can benefit sentient beings. Excuse me, you can start calling it that. It still might give you cancer if you don't give up in time. But at least you're putting new imprints in your mind. At least you're putting new imprints in your mind. This is really emptiness. Lama Zopa's got all these ways of, when you cut your dinner, this type of approach of changing the way you interpret an action. It's not self-existently cutting your dinner. You can decide, conventionally, yeah, you're cutting the bread. But you can think, I'm cutting my delusions. So every time you cut bread, what imprint do you put in your mind? How powerful. So, you change the motivation for the regular things you do. So how about changing our motivation, of course, for the action of generosity? You don't think, oh, I'm giving this to my sister. Of course we have. We're massively attached to her response when she opens it and sees this lovely gift. We're so excited. We want her to open it. We want to get the response, And if she doesn't like our gift, this is our manual's point, we'll be very upset. Excuse me, I'm trying to make you happy. You dare not to be happy. Well, that's your problem, because you've got attachment. So you learn to think of giving with no strings. You give because you want to make the person happy, rather than the attachment one, So it's so powerful to do this. And that's when we understand the action of generosity, when everything comes down to being thoughts as well. That's where just thinking of being generous is stupendous. Just imagining before you stuff the food in your own mouth, you're giving to all the sentient beings, you're giving all to the Buddhas. Because of the power of all this, as Lama Zopa says, not joking, you know, just those few thoughts before you shove the food in the mouth mindlessly, you can't imagine how much virtuous karmic imprints you put. Because every thought is a karma. So when we understand this, we will really understand the Mahayana approach of practice of all those prayers and aspirations and visualizing and creativity and imagining all the mandala, imagining all the offerings and imagining limitless offerings. It's not just being fantasy, it's sowing very powerful seeds in our mind. And the fact is, karmically, to even just get a human body, you've got to have a bucket load of morality karma seeds. To get anything in that life, even 1 grain of rice, you've got to have generosity karma. So you need morality and generosity to have a life that we've got. If you're born in a poor country, you're born in the desert, there's no generosity karma. You've got a nice healthy body, but then what, you know? You fight 8 hours for a grain of rice. But look at us. There must be masses of generosity, which tragically become the object of our attachment. That's why we've got such grist for the mill, that we can transform all our objects of attachment and think of them as general. And this is why impermanence is so powerful. You know, look at the people who hoard. We're all hoarders. Then when you die, look at the mess you leave people. So how about giving it all away before you die? That's really helpful. Frees up your own mind, makes it less work for people. So generosity is massive. The motivation, change in motivation. Is that what you meant, Gavin?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Good. So what else? Yes. Okay. Go. Yes, Shannon?
Yeah, I just want to be clear that I'm hearing you correctly on something. When you went through the list of watch your mind, the impermanence and death, and karma, and compassion, and emptiness down that list.
Yeah.
In any situation, stop, and you can do that kind of quickly, or, you know, just go through that step.
Otherwise, yeah, that's right, Sharon, because look at otherwise what's happening. Instead, there's still a bunch of thoughts going on, aren't there? There's always thoughts going on, interpreting. In fact, the thoughts determine every single step you take. If you didn't have any thoughts in the mind, your body wouldn't even move. What moves your body and speech is your thoughts. So look at our body and speech, and we can tell what our thoughts are. So everything is thoughts. Every second we're interpreting something. Every millisecond we're interpreting. So all we're trying to do, according to our capacity, is take any one of these interpretations and use that instead.
So when you're in the middle of a situation and you just stop and just deal with the situation.
No, wait a minute. Stop.
And
You
go
have to
through
stop.
these steps.
No,
Stop,
Sharon.
look at your mind.
No, Sharon. No,
Okay.
I'm not saying it like that. It sounds too technical. What I'm saying is, would you agree that every second your thoughts are doing something?
Yes.
And then if you look at your body and speech, you drive there, so we can determine what your thoughts are saying. I'm going to go to the shop to buy food. That's why you go to the supermarket. If you kill the mouse, we can deduce what's in your thoughts. If you put the food in the mouth, we can deduce what's in your thoughts. If you read the paper and read about, you know, the poor suffering children being killed, and then you go on blah blah about this and that and politics and the NRA and the guns, we can see what's going on in your mind. It's all thought. Everything is interpretation. Everything you do is interpretation. So you don't have to, if you stopped every moment, you'd never do anything. You need to sit on your cushion. You need some reflection time. That's where you practice your new interpretations. And then when you can catch yourself being angry or getting upset or grasping at the cake, right there you catch it and turn the thought around. But to stop and go through this entire Lamrim meditation every moment, you'd never get anywhere. Do it on your cushion and get used to it. Practice it. Like you do with your piano, you practice thinking differently so you can play the notes. Do you see?
Yes.
So especially if you're sitting in the car and your thoughts are racing away, then you can afford to do your different thinking, your analysis, you know. But if you're in the middle of, you know, doing this and doing that and going shopping and talking to people, you can't just stop. Well, you can be like a teacher who every time he, every time he made a mistake, every time he saw his mind deluded, he'd hop off his horse, he'd do 3 prostrations and purify right there. You could do like that if you wanted. So in the middle of the street, you stop Sharon doing her big conversation. Purifying her mistakes. Looking at the sky. They'll lock you up, dear, so be careful. What else? Okay.
Yeah. Let's see if you can bear with me.
Okay, go.
So let's talk about Adam.
Yes.
So Adam has a past karma of killing.
Yep.
He has enough virtue to be born in a human life.
Yep.
At this point, does he have a choice of screwing up again or burning his past karma?
What do you mean? He's dead, isn't he?
Well, no, before he's already going and create more negative karma.
When? Before he, now that he's
Before
dead?
the killing.
Before all that?
Before the
okay.
killing.
Did he have a choice?
Yes.
Well, it's a dependent arising, isn't it?
What would tip his fate towards burning the old karma versus creating more of the negative karma?
New thoughts in his mind.
Who?
New thoughts in his mind. New thoughts in his mind. Meaning not new, because the seeds must be there if they're there. But let's say he read, okay, first of all, let's try and analyse his mind based on his actions.
Okay.
We would first have to deduce that he didn't have, his behaviour wasn't very angry, was it, before that? He didn't shout and yell and scream and kick. Then people would have noticed he must have had a problem. But because he was quiet, he didn't cause a fuss, so no one cared. Except his mum, no doubt. Maybe he raved onto her, So first we can see, because he didn't make a big fuss with his body and speech, he had some karma to not have bad behaviour, which is a good thing, but in the end it didn't turn out good for him. He didn't go around harming other people. He would have gotten into trouble earlier, he probably would have been in prison, he maybe would have been told off and sent to juvenile hall, he wouldn't have ended up doing this action.
Exactly.
You could even say that.
Exactly.
So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Now next we have to be able to see in his mind, what he had was, he got born in this life, one track of karma is the type of life you get. So we can deduce that at the time of whatever death, virtue ripened, which caused him to get born to that mummy in wherever it was, Connecticut. But he had another track of karma, which was called his tendencies, and this is the one we have to look at. That means he had, like the rest of us, massive ego grasping, which is the grasping at the self. On the basis of this, he had unbelievable attachment to get what he wanted. Then he had incredible rage and anger to the level of extreme paranoia when his attachment wasn't met. And that, I think, is where his mind went. He went, like a lot of those kids, people go to complete insanity. Their mind is absolutely uncontrolled, unbelievable number of imprints in there, of rage, paranoia, so vivid that he lived in this other universe in his own head. And it's called anger. But anger that's gone out of control to the point of complete paranoia. Interpreting the world in the most intense way. Look at him, That's called attachment, not getting what it wants, and it turns into anger. But clearly, levels of anger way beyond that we normally have, because he had no thermostat. So no matter what he read, no doubt, you could say because the anger was so intense, and that means all the fantasies he had. People, all thoughts are, when they're really strong, we call them fantasies. And his fantasies went completely out of control. Completely out of control. So we, like when you saw that, I heard about the video the two Columbine boys made. They're giving their views. So that's where views are. They started creating this whole view of this and that and Hitler and God. That's what stories are. That's all our minds are. That's what politics are. That's what religions are. All this attachment and aversion make up these dramatic 4,000 stories. And he lived in these huge stories of the world and was evil, and he felt resentful and bitter and rage and pride. Unbelievable rage and hurt of pride. Pride is a delusion. And we've all got it, but we don't like to think we've got it. That is always offended by what other people think of you. You're always noticing you're not getting thanked, you're not being seen as you think you really are. You're always offended by people. And pride and anger go very nicely together. They're hand in hand. A teacher said the best humility is patience. Could be the other way around. They go hand in hand, pride and anger. But pride is this powerful, and it's like this huge exaggeration of the sense of self and your importance. And then, of course, when it doesn't get what it wants, it turns into deep self-loathing. But it's the one for him, you can see massive pride, massive anger to the point of complete paranoia. This, like, he probably could have written his own Mein Kampf, you know, his own dramatic stories of the reality of the world. And then all of that channeled, because in this control behaviour, uncontrolled mind, and then finally he was learning to, he obviously went target shooting. Every single child died, there was no injuries because his shooting was so accurate. So all this time building up in his mind, this thing that he finally carried out. You know?
How can you give him the chance of actually changing his karma?
First of all, give a chance. Well, that implies somebody. Who's going to give that chance?
No, you know.
I know, but there were your words.
He's giving him his chance.
Okay,
so how is that possible? Like, I want Adam to come back.
I understand that.
And actually burn his karma. How would that
Well, it's a bit late now. He's in the lower realms, probably suffering for quite a long time due to his own insane mind. That'll burn out eventually. But the tragedy is he had that already. And he didn't change.
Exactly.
Because
That's my question.
Because he didn't regret. And he didn't vow never. I'm trying to explain your answer. He didn't regret having done it. He rejoiced in it and was so happy
because
to do it.
he wasn't able to regret. He
didn't regret.
He was able. He regretted it.
No, he didn't regret, and he didn't vow not to do it again. So those imprints will still be in his mind. He'll burn off the karma of being in the suffering realms, and eventually get, if he's lucky, a human realm again. So the question now, the answer to your question, it's obvious that the answer is he has to be able to access regret, wish not to kill, virtue, compassion, kindness, etc., which is how come we can sit here and not be out there murdering people.
Exactly.
Because we're all the same. Well, that's the answer to your question.
Yeah, we are lucky.
No, not lucky. We worked hard. But that's the answer. And so you can't force that.
I feel that, you know, anyone who would understand it can work towards it.
Right.
But not, like, anyone who would understand, like, the fact that if you work, you have regret, you have generosity, compassion, would really be able to do it. Why some people don't have the ability to understand?
Because they can't access that seed. When the habit's so strong, that fisherman, for example, the one we discussed, the little boy, because of his strong habit to kill, even though he had other habits, he was generous, he was kind, he was sweet, he was a very good person, but he had a habit to kill. Because the habit was so deep, even if his mother ever talked about not killing, he was and second, because he was massively attached to that killing, he simply was he was incapable of hearing any logic that disagreed with that. So the depth of the attachment and the strength of the habit are why we can't hear the opposite. Look at our own minds. We mightn't be running around murdering people, but why do we find it hard to change our habits? Because of this reason. But the imprints are there. A lion, Hitler, any sentient being have all the virtuous imprints there. But they're, at any given time, depending on the life, they're buried under the non-virtuous one. So a lion can only access her capacity to kill. She has not the capability to access her virtue. Incapable, impossible. Even old Adam couldn't do it. And that's the tragedy of suffering. That's the tragedy of samsara. That's why to have unbelievable compassion for suffering sentient beings, because of the positive karma. So that's why anytime we meet any sentient, or we can't do much to help Adam, not now, but we can, you know, if we have power, we could maybe. But you know, you meet other creatures like dogs and cats and mice and lions and tigers. Well, at least say a mantra, for example. Say to their ears, it leaves some imprint in their mind, and one day that can nourish some virtue and help ripen you. You do what you can. That's all we can do. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do. Adam needed you.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, but look, no karma there. What can you do? Yes, darling.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
Could you put into context the conventional label of mental illness in relation to Adam Lenz?
I understand you. See, this is the thing in the West, the models we use are so different. And there they are in the papers saying, is there any history of a personality disorder? I mean, from the Buddhist idea, it's just a cosmic joke. Having attachment is a personality disorder. If we're using the Buddhist model, you understand. The Buddha's way of saying it is so seemingly simple that we just gloss over it. You know, we're so, even Buddhists are so addicted to the materialist Western view of psychology. I'm not criticizing it, but it's just a different model, you understand. So Buddha would say, basically, having any attachment, as we're discussing it here, which is normal human behavior, is a deep mental illness, whereas we consider it totally normal behaviour. So his view of what mental illness is much more radical than, you understand my point. So you know, you could even say, I mean, lately it's very interesting, a lot of kids, you know, from Buddha's point of view, lots of children have been born to Buddhist families. Maybe we can deduce that they've had a strong Buddhist past connection, they've been meditators, and they come into this life. Now, many of them, and there's this history of this, they're very powerful little minds, very strong, very stubborn, they can be very wild, but they turn out to be very remarkable high beings. Do you understand, who've made choice to come back into this life. Now, there's one example of one person I know whose child, since he's 2 or 3, has displayed all the symptoms of what people would call, what's that word? Autistic. Absolute genius at memorising things. Goes on to, when he was 3 and 4, going on to the, you know, to YouTube and looking at discovering sign language, so learning sign language, and then learning how to say count to 100 in Spanish, and then learning how to say count to backwards in Chinese. So of course he's seen perfectly as an autistic kid. He's super powerful, super stubborn, up all day from 5 in the morning to 10 at night. Immense energy, and easily you could call him a mentally ill child. You understand? Now, when you think of it, if I think of it, I mean, I'm not special, I'm not even clairvoyant, I'm just using Buddhist psychology to interpret this person. He's got a very powerful, strong mind. It's a great a great quality. We need it. It's called stubborn in a child, but it's also called perseverance. It's called enthusiasm. It's called never giving up, which is a great quality. You need that to get enlightened. Then there's strong, immense intelligence, you know, that can only be a good thing if it's used appropriately. So then you've got, you can see I can see he's got strong attachment to get what he wants, but a flexible mind in many ways. So he's got a very powerful mind, super intelligent, clearly has got empathy in some way, but not normal social skills. Now there's another little girl I know who is actually said to be the reincarnation of one of these really high lamas. She had no social skills, as they call it in the West. Now, what that means is she'd be in a room with another friend, and then she'd decide she wants to go, she would leave. Now, that's called mental illness in our culture, but actually that's because she's fairly self-contained, and there's nothing more to do, but because we're riddled with attachment and neediness, we're all over each other like rashes, and want to play, and then we get hurt, and then we fight, and we cry, and we get jealous, and we kiss each other. That's called normal. Well, in Buddhism, that's called suffering. It's called jealousy, attachment, anger. You understand what I'm saying here? We call that normal behaviour. So if you're a child who looks extremely shy, which is another example, this little girl, she's called mentally ill, because she doesn't seem to have the same needs as another child. Well, the Buddhists feel because she hasn't got much attachment. Do you see? So it's a really interesting way to interpret. And it's a bit scary. Please keep your kids away from these psychiatrists, you know. I'm not trying to sound like Tom Cruise or anything, so I think psychiatry and psychology is wonderful, but the usual method, the models we have of what is normal and not normal, I'm sorry, a bit nerve-wracking, you know. So it still doesn't mean you haven't got like poor Adam Lanza, clearly, but yet again using Buddha's psychological way of interpreting. It's not a big ask to talk about it in terms of enormous attachment, enormous anger, very powerful karmic imprints from past killing, which of course nobody factors into this, into our materialist view. So because the materialist view, you know, you can't find in the mother and the father and the grandfather a history of murdering many people, then they can't work out where this comes from. And that's where we say he's mentally disturbed, got a personality disorder. Well, the Buddha would say it's because he's got a strong habit to kill. Do you see? Now, if he was killing fish, people would call him normal. If he was a sniper in the army, he'd be called a hero. But he might be subsuming all his psychosis into being a soldier and keeping it quiet and happily killing people and blissing out on it, but no one cares as long as he doesn't kill the wrong people. So it's really very arbitrary what we call insane. I mean, I'm not trying to be simplistic here. I'm not trying to insult Western psychology because there's amazing findings and amazing people, but there's different ways of seeing things, which I'm suggesting here, you know. Are we communicating?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know whether this is appropriate to bring up, but in that context, what do you think of modern psychopharmacology?
I think it can be quite helpful. You know, Tibetan doctors, you go to your Tibetan doctor, they'll feel your pulses and she'll say, well, you know, your wind energies are a bit berserk here. Take this herbal medicine. It'll calm the physical down so that the mind, the part of your mind that's connected to it, will then calm down. Well, that's the same one, you know. All of my family, we were all diagnosed in the 60s as manic depressive. The 7 of us. The 7 of us, me and my siblings, you know. I'm sure he thought he won the lottery, getting an entire history of 7 children, all manic depressive. Well, not, you know, each one of us, I remember at the time I was a bit of an old radical feminist, so I didn't want his wretched old boring male medicine, so I said, if I'm crazy, let me be crazy, go away, you know, I'm not going to take your rubbish medicine. But another one of my sisters, she still takes a Prozac, okay? But she's, and this is something interesting as well, okay, this is what I've found, this is quite a helpful point. There are lots of people who got berserk minds, let's say called bipolar, which is what I was called, all my sisters. But if you have if some person might have much access to much virtue, if a person doesn't have much access to generosity in themselves and kindness and forgiveness and compassion, then they will always just stay manic and crazy. If you're a junkie, but you don't have any confidence in yourself and never believe that you can get past this and really always blaming people in the victim mentality, then, you know, you can't get far. But if I look at all my sisters and my brother, and maybe including me too, we've all got access to some good qualities as well, and that's the part that's made us sane. So like I look at this little boy who's considered autistic, he's got a huge, big mind, huge compassion. So that'll be fine. He's just got a very big delusions as well, but they can be transformed. But if you've only got the delusions like poor Adam, you can't get far. Are you seeing what I'm saying? So we've got to look at a much bigger picture than just the bad behaviour. And because in our culture we're so hysterical about bad behaviour, it freaks us out so much. We want to shove it all away, take a pill and be quiet. So first of all, sometimes we just want to make it all go away and we panic. On the other though, if it's fine, take your medicine, calm your serotonin down, it's perfectly cool. But the Buddhist approach would be take your pill, but now that'll give you some space to work on the mind, which is your own, which is your thoughts. Because the mind is not the chemicals. Do you see what I'm saying? So, you know, whatever. But we've got to, yeah, you understand. So I think it's a bit scary these days, these labels, and we concretise them so enormously. We're so blanket, you know. You can have one person who's a past yogi who's called autistic, and then one other child who's seriously mentally ill called autistic because they vaguely show similar symptoms. We've got to be very careful. And that's why, in order to know someone else's mind, you cannot do it until you know your own. And here we're using the Buddhist psychological model. That's up to us, you know. But we don't know about knowing our own mind in the West until we just look at the brain and this and that and the chemicals. So it's all just hit and miss and guesswork, much of it. And we go by behaviour. You understand? Yeah. Thank you.
I'll be quick.
Go, Sophie.
Yeah, another question about the element of choice within the context of karma. We can all think of moments in our lives where we're really conscious of the fact that it's a momentous decision, and we could go one way or the other.
That's right.
So, given karma, would it not matter which decision we make?
No, it's rubbish. It's nihilistic. It's terrible. It's nihilistic. It's like saying, because I mean, karma just means dependent arising, and that means seeds in the mind. That means everything that we think and do and say is determined what we'll do before. Right. But that's what's surprising to us, so we feel paralysed by that. Everything we do does count. Every seed in your ground does matter, because every seed will bring a particular fruit. So every thought will bring a particular fruit, because every thought is a karma. So everything matters.
Oh no, I meant, will the result be the same in this life because of the seeds we've sown in the past? That it doesn't really matter which choice we make in this particular instant. The result in this life.
It depends on the time and space. It's a highly dependent thing. Let's say you're driving at 52 miles an hour around a hill, and there's another car coming at 64 miles an hour, and I'm on a mountain and I can see both of you. I get my calculator out, I will deduce that in 3.5 minutes they're going to crash. Right?
Right.
Assuming you keep going at 55 miles an hour, and they keep going at 64. Now if you suddenly stop now, or go down to 20 miles an hour, you'll avoid the crash, won't you?
Sure.
But if you're just a minute, if you're just 30 seconds away from the car, it's too late to slow down.
Sure, but
so it's all a question of space and time.
But what makes me decide to slow down?
Another dependent arising. Another factor that comes up. You see a friend on the side of the road. Another thing pops up. Oh, hello. You slow down to say hello.
But every one of those is a dependent
Every one is
arising.
a dependent arising. There's nothing set in stone. Every single thing is dependent arising. Every single microsecond of every tiny bit of you, every choice, every moment of every second is all a bunch of dependent arisings coming together. And when they're all very strong in one direction, like poor old Adam, boom. Do you see? There's a million things every second that are, and that's why we've got to rely on the good seeds we planted. Because if in this life, like Adam, he can't access that, there's nothing you can do. The best if somebody could have seen that he was going to do this, if they, if he'd been put into prison earlier, that would have saved the day. But who's got that kind of wisdom? We don't have clairvoyance. The Buddha says to really begin to help people, we need clairvoyance. You see their minds and their past and future. It makes sense. But anyway, everything's dependent on right. And that's why, okay, in the end, because we're not clairvoyant, because we can't see our karma, because we have to constantly fill up the tank of our virtue every second. Constantly remember our reason for existence, our reason for doing what we do. That's what will help transform. So every moment of every day, if we're on this path where we're trying to become a Buddha, those of us who are Buddhists, that's our goal. Why you wake up? Why am I awake? I want to become a Buddha to benefit sentient beings. So that'll determine your choices. And why am I eating food? Because I want to benefit sentient beings. Why am I going to work? I want to be Buddha to benefit sentient beings. If everything we do, remember the biggest goal, that'll slowly put that energy into that channel, and transform it. Because it's empty anyway. So might as well do that. That's the biggest way to transform everything. Yeah. I've got to go to New York and then to California. No, then to Los Angeles and then to Portland and then to Nevada and then to San Antonio and then to Colombia and then to Buenos Aires and then to... I really like traveling around, don't I? It's like there's good preparation for death. Because when you go, you have a certain thing, a life and a house and a relationship, and you think, this is it, now I found happiness. You have it for 35 years and then you die. Well, I have it for a week, So the day before I'm thinking, oh, it's already over. Might as well go to the next one. So hopefully it's for preparation for death. So I'll be able to give up Robina and my iPad easily.
The iPad might be harder.
Oh, my iPod too. My iPod.
Oh, your iPod.
Yeah, sweetheart.
When you're in Argentina, kindly.
What time?
When you go to Argentina.
Yes.
I would like to know, because are you being translated?
Yes, of course.
Because
I'll be there the weekend of February 28th, March 1, 2 and 3.
I was intrigued by the nature of your commitment, of the desire in the bodhicitta. And I was trying to translate inside for myself in French or even in Spanish, the bodhicitta.
This is an altruistic aspiration.
And I think that I didn't know it was my question earlier, but spontaneity.
Yes.
I lived with women who you don't see in the way of teachers, but they were the kind of women who would go to, let's say in Africa, at a basin to wash water with other women, but they would pray for the blind people, they would pray for the food, they would pray for the rain. And I want to make clear with you, in myself, that I'm not having a confusion of intent by the nature of your teaching of karma, of the spiritual heart. You shared something profound today, very simple, that I maintain internally, of the travel between the mind and the heart, and not to give up. And the nature of the other aspect that you spoke during all this training, I don't consider it workshop, of challenging oneself every day. So when I say spontaneity, I lived with women who, let's say, they just offer themselves. It's just the way it is.
No, I understand.
So
that's
spontaneity.
Okay. I know, but the point I'm making here is why they're like that is because, like, why, if you sit down and play a beautiful piece of piano spontaneously, we reify spontaneity as if it came out of nowhere. And that's how we tend to think, oh, it's just the grace, it's just a blessing. But the Buddha would say it's because that person worked really hard at bodhicitta and compassion in the past, so that now they can do it effortlessly.
Yeah.
It came out of the past hard work.
So
that's my point.
Thank you. So the clear seeing between patients of the bodhicitta that they carried in this life brought happiness to people by they were just being.
Because they've done it in the past, so they're able now to be spontaneously beneficial to others. That's what a bodhisattva is, the person who's gone through all this path, step by step, like we've laid it all out, to the point where they have their first moment of spontaneous bodhicitta. From that moment there's no longer the thought of I, from that moment there's no longer the thought of giving something, from that moment to yourself, from that moment you are only existing for others, even your breath is for others. But this is the point here, this path is the map of how to become that. Whereas I would tend to suggest that in our thoughts about spiritual, we're kind of just born that way or we're not. Oh, well, that's just how Mother Teresa is. Oh, isn't she lucky? But all this is, in the Buddhist view, is a map, a path of how to get there.
But wouldn't you say that the confrontation for myself, I can only speak from this place. For me, it's not just Buddhist, it's life. What you teach.
Yeah, I know, I'm just giving it the label Buddhism, not trying to be arrogant, just to kind of place it in the conventional reality, that's all. Of course it's life, darling, but I'm just giving Buddha's tools for how to get there. I don't want to just be arrogant and think it's my tools. I'm just reminding us, this is the stuff that I'm learning from these Buddhists. Yeah, well, it doesn't mean Christ doesn't teach many of the same things, but I'm just naming it conventionally without prejudice, that's all.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying.
I'm really paying attention by the nature of the not giving up with the inclusion of patience to oneself.
That's right.
And not be impatient when we make mistakes.
That's right.
And
exactly.
One of the teaching of the Buddhist path that you train is not giving up. That for me is a very large, because you share something very profound between anger and depression, since we are the witnessing of the nature of what I like the question of this woman about the mental illness. That to me, we have ADD, we have ADHD, we are depressed. In French we say at this time of the year, from the tools that this man in front of me asked, the giving of himself to himself, we call it bonjour tristesse. We don't call it depression.
I understand.
Because that's the aspect of the nature of the groove, of the aversion that you offer, to recognize that in ourselves, the recognition.
Okay, yes. So conclusion, Chantal?
Happiness.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you for your teaching and opening the mind.
All right. Pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, baby. Thank you, Saskia.
This is Sarah. This is Sarah.
She
was thinking this
I said
oh, that Wendy.
I didn't bother to thank Sarah. I thanked Saskia.
No.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going. That's it. And then we'll sing a prayer. What happened? Okay, Jang Trob, Sem Trob, Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam, Ke Guchi, Kepa, Nyapa, Mepa Yang, Gong Ne Gong Du Pava Trob, Gewadi, Nudu Dag, Lama Sanki, Drugyune, Droa, Chikya, Maru Pa, Te Sala, Gurpa Shog. May we never develop even for a moment wrong views towards the deeds of our most precious teachers, who are the ones who bring these teachings to us, whom we need badly to put it on the right track, which is up to us to find. Now I forgot the prayer. May we may never develop, even for a moment, wrong views towards our most precious teachers. May with faith and respect gained from seeing their goodness, may their full inspiration flow into our hearts. Okay, cheers everybody, have a fun holiday. I'm going to be in prison on Christmas Day. I'm going to visit an old friend in prison.